What if I could give you one of the best conversations to help you manage your fear? So, we're talking about fear of anything, fear of moving from the comfort zone, fear of failure, fear of being yourself, fear of having that conversation. This is going to be an episode that dives directly into that and helps you through. And I think one of the best people to speak to about fear and comfort zone is our guest, Jenny Cova. So Jenny is a sky dancer. She's a sky model, a base jumper, a paraglider. She has an upcoming book, which we will be linking as soon as that's available. And she's a speaker. And she's so interesting because she is someone who is so powerful in pink, jumping and dancing through the skies. And I love the idea of someone like her being able to really share with us what it's like to move through fear. So join this conversation. I know it's going to inspire you. I'll see you inside. I think I told you before, I skydived in tandem before, and that was terrifying. But I think a next level of terrifying is doing it alone. So I'm just curious, like, what was it that drove you to want to do this? What was it that made you think in the beginning, like, I want to feel what this is like?
Well, the dream came when I was a little girl. I've always been a dreamer, and I would spend my afternoons lying in the grass, looking up at the sky and just wanting to know what it would feel like to be up there, especially what the clouds would feel like. And then growing up, watching Point Break, I was like, okay, it's people skydiving, so maybe this could be something that I could do one day. And then when I moved back to Switzerland after having done university, I was invited to go to this festival. And that's the first time that I saw wingsuit base jumping, with the squirrel suit jumping off of the cliff. And I was like, wow, that's what I'm going to do. I thought that was incredible. And then that evening I met the guys that were in the movie. And I walked one of them out the next day to watch them jump off of a cliff live. This same person took me to do a tandem jump. And that was my first tandem skydive. And I loved it. The tandem, I wasn't really scared. I just thought it was so awesome, and to be able to jump out of a helicopter. And the helicopter flew over my hometown at my little village I live in Switzerland. The views here are just so, so, so beautiful. And we're just going up with the door of the helicopter open, and I was fascinated. And then I was like, I'm sold. I wanna start doing this. What are my next steps? And then it took me a while to get organized, to get out of the situation I was in, to be able to then start my skydiving career, which at the beginning was not a career, which was challenging for me as well, because I've been pretty good at all sports I've tried out in my life. And skydiving was, I wasn't as graceful as I was hoping in the sky. Yeah, normally you do something and it works out. But for me in the sky, to learn how things had to be done, it just took a while, because you have to kind of do the opposite of what your brain tells you to do.
Was this when you were talking about before, where you had a moment that you kind of fell out of love with it, or where something happened that encourage you to go back to it, but in a different way?
So basically what happened is that at the beginning, when I started skydiving, my first 20 or so jumps, I was getting into it. I was having fun. And then came a time where you were starting to learn all sorts of new things and which direction you wanted to go in. And I found myself, like I said, really struggling because I wasn't a quick learner at all. And back in the days, I used to be a perfectionist. Back in the days, I wouldn't allow myself to make mistakes. I had a very unhealthy ego, which was in competitions with others, as opposed to myself, to be the best version of myself. The fact that I couldn't do what I wanted to do, or would just take me so long, it made skydiving not become fun for me anymore. So if you're doing a sport like skydiving, you really want to have fun. Because if you're being too hard on yourself and you're telling you that you suck, which I was saying to myself back in the days, which I would never say to myself today anymore, but I was very, very, very harsh on myself. And so I did stop skydiving for a while because it just wasn't fun. I was just too competitive. because for skydiving, I wanted to learn how to dance in the sky. And in order to dance in the sky, you need to learn to do free fly first. And that's the one I was struggling with quite a bit, which is just doing these like sitting moves and just getting stable. And so then I stepped out of the sport and did other things, still with my feet always off the ground, because that's when I'm happiest. I went through a difficult patch in my life in 2020. Because of it, I started working on myself, like on my personal development journey. And through that, I learned about what the unhealthy ego was and what the healthy ego was. And I learned about being patient with myself. And it's okay to do mistakes, because otherwise, how the heck are you going to learn and grow? You're only going to learn and grow by making mistakes, right? And so, yeah. And so I started diving deep into these things, and then came the dream back out of learning to dance in the sky. And I was like, I want to go back to that, and I want to do it with love and kindness with myself. And so that's what I did.
It's such a great example of how we don't know the story behind someone else, because just watching your videos and your photos, no one would think this is someone who was struggling to be graceful or someone who wasn't fully happy and enjoying the freedom of it. I know the photos now, obviously you are enjoying it, but it just wouldn't occur. And I think it's so interesting because the competition part, I know that you're talking about it in sports and it holding people back a bit, but I think in life as well, I'm sure we found like that ego holding us back so much from really just enjoying what our passions are and the things that we like, and having the courage to go after them versus what if I fail or I don't measure up to this person who's the top in my industry or my space.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that for me back in the days, but it's been so important to understand that we are all unique human beings. And so everybody has their own learning process. To understand how slow or how quickly you learn and to accept that, that for me has really been the breakthrough in the sport. And when I make mistakes, to laugh about it, to enjoy the process of learning. You see, I started skydiving and I wanted to be right up there, and I forgot to enjoy the process of learning. Whereas in skydiving, the process of learning is so much fun. Like in every sport, like in everything in life, it's in the journey. When you summit a peak, it's not about just getting up there. Like the magic happens on the journey of getting there, because you learn so much about yourself.
It's always the reminder, I feel. We try to give on this show, but I also try to give myself that, this focus on the experience, and actually while you're learning something, that is some of the most enjoyable moments of it. Like when you're being challenged for a new maneuver for you, for example, or a different means of doing something, or adding in some prop or some aspect that people hadn't thought about. Finding the fun and the playfulness in this, I think, is something we really step out of. To your point where we had said before we recorded that we get so stuck in like this analytical, objective, achieve versus more of that creative energy.
Which is so important.
Can you talk a little bit about how you're bringing that to the sport? You are not the typical what we see skydiver, and I'm not going to say anything. I'll let you describe. But I think that it's really interesting how you're bringing a totally different energy to it and a different perspective.
Yeah, for me, always in my life, since I was a child, like my color was just pink, and I wanted everything pink. Ideally, I would live in a pink house with a pink car, with a pink van, and a pink Vespa. Everything pink. I remember when I started base jumping, and my mentor back then, he's like, "Yeah, now we're gonna go for your first jump, and you gotta wear cargo pants." And I'm like, "Why do I have to wear cargo pants?" And he's like, "Oh, because you need pockets to put your things in." And I'm like, no, I'm going to wear my leggings and I'm going to be me, and maybe you could carry this and you could carry this. I love our men in the sport. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the men in in my life. But I do believe that the feminine energy that she brings with her and the grace. We go paragliding sometimes in summer when it's warm, and we wear our little dresses, and it's, yeah. I mean, yeah, we can overdo it sometimes.
I don't think there is a overdoing it. I love this. I'm sure this is part of why you do it as well, is that other people can see that. and it is inspiring to see and maybe allows them to see more of themselves in the sport and really in athletics in general, to say like, okay, it's okay for me to step into this a little bit more aligned, and I can still be successful, which you've been able to show.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that also as we move forward, there's more of this coming out everywhere in the world, right? Like, I think that us women are really stepping back into our feminine energy. It is coming more and more. And
I used to be in corporate and I wore the typical pinstripe skirt, black, white blouse, etc. And I went through storage to see this stuff, which I never gave away. And I'm like, this is so different from, I mean, you see what I'm wearing now. It's got like
I was
six
about to say, I
colors.
love the colors. It's so nice. It suits you.
But I think you really exemplify this idea of like stepping into who you are fully, even when you see that maybe the rest of the world, your sport or your space doesn't look like that.
Yeah, but I think that our greatest power is in our authenticity. Authentically you, and just bring that to the world. That's the nicest thing because you don't have to be somebody else. You don't have to prove anything to anyone else. You can just be you. And I think that I feel that a lot of people need to be reminded that because sometimes we just want to be liked and we are trying to do good and we are trying this and we are trying that. We try so hard. And yet, all we need to really do is be ourselves because when we are truly ourselves and we can be comfortable and happy with who we are and show that to the world, that's when we truly find inner joy because we're not wearing a mask anymore.
Shield or that box around us that's isolating us from connecting, and really also connecting to people who are inspired and resonate with you, because I'm sure when they see what you're doing, you get a certain kind of person who really appreciates that energy, which might be different from someone who's following a different athlete. That's so needed, especially for women, to kind of see ourselves in the people who we may want to follow their footsteps, or we may just like really enjoy seeing their journey, but being able to feel aligned with them. And now you're writing a book too to help inspire further.
I am writing a book on befriending your fears, really, to learn to dance with them. Because more often than not, we see fear as something to go like this, like, oh my God, it's scary, let's not go there. But wherever there is fear, there is growth. So if you learn to look at fear as an ally, as a friend that is here to teach you something as opposed to limit you in something, then you really are able to transform it into growth because any given time that you step up to fear and that you do it regardless, that's when you show courage. And how many times have you done that? And then on the other side, it wasn't good. It's generally really rewarding and you find your freedom on the other side. You're like, oh my God, that wasn't so scary, right? And I'm not saying that everybody has to go skydive or base jump. That's not what I mean. But through the line of work that I do, I'm confronted with stepping outside of my comfort zone all the time. The magic is when you step out of your comfort zone. That's where you find greatness. It's just that in order to do that, you got to go through fear. And so people are like, oh, but once you learn to see it as your ally, you live in a very different way.
Expanding outside your comfort zone, because I'm sure too, no one jump is the same as the previous one. And so there is always that element of trying to move through the fears, the discomfort. Is there, because I know you're speaking about this as more than just the physical fear of jumping out, into the clouds. Is there something that you were afraid of more than you were afraid of jumping out of the plane?
How about fear of failure? For me, the idea that I might fail at learning how to skydance stopped me going after the dream altogether for 5 years. So learning to see fear in a different way and then learning to fall in love with yourself and being patient with yourself, like it's almost like a bouquet of everything together, brought me then back to the sport and be like, wait a minute. That dream is there. It's there for a reason. If the universe has placed it there, it's there for a reason, so I can achieve it. And if I am having difficulties achieving it, well, maybe there's a reason for that too. Maybe there's a reason why I'm learning slowly. And perhaps that's also the reason why we're sitting here and we're having a conversation. So I think everything is connected.
I'm just thinking about this now as you said it, because the one thing where you're connecting the way we treat ourselves and almost our self-esteem with our relationship to fear is really interesting and not something that I've really heard talked about so much. But it makes sense because your relationship to fear is going to be obviously scarier and harder and discomfort as well if you don't feel like you can trust yourself, if you feel like not comfortable in what you want to achieve. But I don't mean just uncomfortable. I mean like not believing that you can do it or not going forward regardless like you did. So I feel like that's such an important part that we don't really think about. Like we want to attack the fear, but then we forget about how we see ourselves.
And it's all connected, right? Because at the end of the day, most of us have dreams. And how many of these dreams do we not go after because of some sort of fear? But if that dream has been placed inside of you, there's a reason for it. And if you don't learn how to manage your fear and use it as an ally, you'll end up living an old age filled with regret. And so I feel that to learn how to work with fear, to empower yourself, will bring all of your dreams to you.
I don't even remember the song, but it reminds me of the song where it was saying something like, one day we'll think about all the stories we could have had. You'll remember later the stuff that you didn't go forward and try and just see. And what an amazing story that would have been. I mean, if you would have not continued on and moved past the fear of failure, you wouldn't be speaking today about being a sky dancer and having this impact. It wouldn't have, that story would not be yours.
And so it's important, like when you have a dream, there's a reason why it's there. There's no such thing as failing. You either succeed or you learn. And to me, that's such a powerful phrase because, like, we're all human. Like, I'm learning all of these lessons, but then sometimes when you screw up like royally, you're just like, oops, like the first 10 minutes is still maybe a little bit hard to accept, but then you become gentle with yourself and it ends up becoming a beautiful lesson. And I think that if we could all just be more playful with ourselves, we put pressure on ourselves, right? So much pressure.
It goes back to what you were saying before too, which I think is super relevant of how if you have this dream, there's a reason why. And if you're not achieving it, there's a reason why. For example, for you were saying it was really, you were learning slow, these elements. What do you think was the reason or the reasons why that was the case for you?
I'm still a slow learner when I come to skydiving. Talk to my skydiving coach. When I have to do something new, I just tense up. In the sky, you really don't want to tense up. You want to be chill. You just have to persevere. You just do it, do it, do it, do it, do it until you get it. Eventually, if we put our heart, our mind, and our soul into something, we'll always get there. And if you can just be patient with yourself and not have too many expectation as to how quickly you get there, you'll get there.
Letting go of time. Do you think it's a bit ironic that we're talking about that when you're in Switzerland?
Divine time. And if you're not getting there that quick, like I said, there is a reason for it.
Having trust that it will happen. This is my big word for the year is actually trust. Being able to trust myself, trust the process, trusting that it will happen because I know people say you need patience, but I think it goes beyond that. It's believing that it will happen at some point in time, maybe not when you think, maybe not how you envisioned. It's like deeper than patience. That is.
Yeah, I think it comes down to trusting that the universe has your best interest at heart. And the way you want to get to some place or do something and it doesn't work out, if it's not working out the way you want it, there is a reason for it. But if you look back at it like a couple of years from now, it'll all like a puzzle fall into place and you'll see exactly why things had to go the way they had to go. 5 years ago when I went through that really difficult moment in my life, it was so painful and I cried so much, and I was just, why? And then today, I wouldn't be here talking to you if things that happened the way that they happened didn't happen exactly as they happened. And so today I am grateful. I always say the people that I am most grateful to are actually the people that really hurt me in my life because they allowed me to become the woman that I am today. Without those lessons, I wouldn't be here. everything changes, and you can grow from everything that hurts you and everything that makes you angry.
They always say that the world will throw at you the same thing until you learn the lesson.
Yes, and generally the lesson, every time it comes a little bit tougher.
For when you're thinking about all of this, because it all comes back to what I know you're writing about, which is this courage, finding the courage to do different things, making fear not your enemy, being able to have it be your ally. What do you think are maybe the one to two or three things about fear that you have learned that you really want people to know about?
I think fear of failure is a very big topic, right? Fear of failure is a huge topic. And I encourage everybody to go out and fail once a day so that you can befriend the failing, and, you learn to grow from it and also understand why it is that you are so scared of failing. Breaking down the fear, where does it come from?
And normalizing failure in your life instead of
Yeah.
just doing things that you're always good at or that you know very well.
And uncomfortable conversations.
That's another kind of fear, isn't it? That avoidance that we create from the fear of confrontation and conflict, or someone maybe saying or responding a way that we don't feel like we can handle.
Yeah, and a lot of people, because of it, are just sleepwalking through life. But inside, what about your happiness? What about your boundaries? What do you stand for? What makes you happy? Sit in your wants and needs and desires and what you want out of life, because that's so important.
Fail every day. That has stuck with me because I think by nature of maybe what you're doing with your career, you're forced to do that, right? You are going to fail at something every day. And I think that that's so amazing to do that, to have that mindset and to get comfortable with it. Again, that's the fear of the failure. Like, just allow the failure to happen. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You have to put the weight down. Like, it's not a big deal. But so that has stuck with me a lot. And then I really appreciate too the courage to have the conversations and maybe even with yourself, the things you're not admitting, who you are, what you want, all of that.
Because that's basically what we're doing in life. We have the power to write our own story. But more often we let fear stop us. We don't even go there because of things. But now, if you were the hero of this journey, would you go through that? Would you do it? And if you failed, would you retry? And how would it actually end? So you write out your life, how you want it to go.
We forget that we can be, like you said, the writers, we can also be the editors. We don't have to just be the readers.
And I just want to be sure that the day that I'll be in my deathbed, that I'll look back at my life and I can be proud of what I've created and what I've done and the life I've lived.
The courage to go after your dreams. So I hope anyone who listens, if you've got that dream, one tiny step towards it, let this be your inspiration. So I know the book is not out yet. You're writing on it. We'll update this once it's available. But where can people connect with you and follow your journey and your story? Because it is really inspiring. They'll hear your words right now, but when you guys see the visuals, you're going to be even more inspired.
At the moment, my Instagram, jenjen.cova, and my website goes live at the end of April.
Also be updating when the website is there. And I encourage everyone listening to follow you on Instagram in the meantime, so they will know what's happening. They will be able to know when the book is there. And also because you're just going to be so inspired seeing the pink fly through the sky. Thank you so much for being here, Jenny.
Honored to be here with you.
And thank you so much for listening to this episode. I have felt so inspired by it. I hope that you have too. There's just something about hearing someone who skydives and dances among the clouds really helping you through fear. I think that feels extremely powerful. So I hope it has motivated you. Please share it with anyone in your life who you know has maybe a dream they've been sitting on and you feel like they just need a little gentle, inspirational push. Send this to them and I will see you in the next one.